Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. What we've got here behind us on the bench today is going to be a true Frankenstein build. Parts from multiple different chainsaws. All Husqvarna though, except for one. We are running a steel piston in it. I'd shown this project in a short a couple weeks back, so I thought I'd make a little longer video and give you guys a look. So with that said, alrighty guys, the deal is I've got to kind of wrap this up tonight, get it on a shelf or in a box. So I have other things that are a little more important to work on over the next little bit, but you guys will see video of that as well. But what we have here, this is originally, I'm going to start taking stuff off as I'm talking. And we'll go over the numbers on it right now, but it doesn't really matter. I've got to do a little more machine work to the saw. But what this is originally a set of 359 cases. If you guys remember on the channel, we had a not so hot 357, or started out I was going to build a 357 XP hot saw. Ended up with some junk that I'd paid for a cylinder that it ran okay, but the stock 359 with just a little bit of mods would have just ate it alive. Never was happy with the thing, just sat on the shelf. Ended up getting online and finding looked like a pretty rough 357 XP. Videos on the channel of that. Doing was taking two chainsaws and making one. Ended up buying a new piston. And pretty happy with that saw. I still need to get the larger carburetor. I'm running a smaller 350 carburetor on that thing, but for what I put it together for, it ran really good and done well. Pull a 24 through hardwood like it was its job. But videos of that on the channel as well, and we may bring that thing back out in some future videos as well. But back to this. Bottom end of this thing's totally rebuilt, has a new crankshaft, new bearings, new seals. This was damaged who knows when, but I can fix this. That's a non-issue. Really isn't hurting a thing though, but for this project, and I do have a coil to go on it, a 372 coil and wire here somewhere. That's funny, I probably have lots of 372 coils laying around, but we'll just have to find them. But this handle was on the 357 XP. All the guts were missing out of it, so I just ended up doing a handle swap. The other handle had like new fuel line and strainer and stuff in it, so it was just easier to swap the handle. Ended up swapping the handle onto my 346 XP a couple weeks ago. I'd picked up, and these are the guts out of that original 346 XP handle. Yeah, like one roll pin here to drive out, and those guts are pretty easy to change out, honestly. Dug around, found a handlebar. I'm almost positive it's like a 340 through 350 or 346 XP or 351, 353, who knows. Everything up here lines up on this side of the handle, but lower part of the handle, this one screw down here lined up, and then the other one just didn't quite line up. Ended up just drilling a small hole, shooting a screw in it. Again, none of this stuff was nice. It's all just junk most people would just toss or throw away. I don't know if I'm going to pull a cylinder off. We might. I guess I may as well while we're discussing it. But first things first, this is, I know people have seen like Joe done the 272 swapped one that I think Bucking ended up with. And you know, there's been lots of people do these, but first things first, this is not an entry-level swap. Don't think that you can just pick up a 359 online or off Marketplace. and get you a 272 XP cylinder, and it's just going to go right on with ease. It's not the case if you ain't really experienced in saw building. If you don't have a lathe in your shop, or the ability to use a lathe, or have access to one, I don't recommend you do this swap. You're just going to end up with some heartache in the end, I do believe. I'm going to go over what we've got here. This is a OEM, again junk, 266 XP cylinder that had some, I ain't going to say really bad scoring, but it was repairable. It looks pretty good. I wouldn't be afraid to put it on a saw and use it as a work saw at all. It's been sitting here on my shelf for a long time. It's not just a simple plug and play deal. You have to have a lathe to make this cylinder fit, unless you want to grind and hack on your cases. And I'm not going to lie, these cases here have been ground on some internally to open them up. Mainly to where the piston would go down in deeper, but to where we didn't have to cut so much off the bottom of the piston and destroy our intake timing. But again, we'll go over the numbers I came up with shortly. And I've got really long bolts in this, and I'm going to end up shortening them because I'm going to do a little more machine work on this thing once it's said and done. But right now, thing has some killer torque. As you can see, we've got a pretty nice pop up there. It's small, like button style pop up, but that one's not going to get in the way of anything as far as your wash pattern or anything. What we have is a steel 044 MS 440 style piston. This is an old used one that I would have probably deemed needed replaced in a work saw, but in this, where we're experimenting, if I can get the wrist pin back out of it, tight fit, I think it'll be just fine. But what I'm also going to show is it's not just as easy as putting that piston on there. You got to go in and open it up here and here, which technically is going to take away from the rigidity, I guess would be the word, of the piston. But you can see that thing's nothing perfect. We had to cut quite a bit off of it. There's still 90 thousandths from the crown to the top ring land, so it should be perfectly safe. I've ran on down as far as 80 thousandths with over 200 psi, and they still be fine. Okay, so when I said you have to have a lathe, this has to be turned down in order to fit into these cases. And like I said, I've already went in and done some work to the inside of these cases, but before it's all said and done, I'm also going to do some epoxy work inside of there to take up some space. As you can see, I've not done anything to the base yet, and I've only just kind of cleaned all the carbon off with a squish band, but there is a little bit of room for me to do a little bit of machine work before my intake timing gets kind of crazy. But just for fun, just experimental anyway. But I took a bunch off the bottom of this. As you can see, there's no bevel at all anymore, and again, had to turn this down. As far as the bolt holes, the front ones have to be elongated forward and out. Honestly, the rear bottom bolt holes almost work. I honestly just dropped them a little bit and then just a little bit, and the bolts just dropped right in. And I almost forgot, you've got to cut the fins down on this side to clear the cases on this saw. Okay, so while I'm cinching this back down, and it's just going on again temporary, but like I said, I need to get this thing put up because I have another project or build to to get done that you guys are going to want to see that I'm thinking about making several videos on. And I do want to be able to run the carb tray in this. I do have it laying over there. What my goal is I've got to custom make an intake that bolts onto this. You could probably make the 266 intake work. I'm pretty sure I probably have one here somewhere, but you would either have to really hack up your carb tray or just not run one at all. Just for reference, we have 6061 aluminum. Not that piece, that's something I actually made that I use quite often, but just for reference, we have plenty of aluminum here. And really thinking about making what I need out of Delrin. I've got this hunk of Delrin we could use. There's actually a little more over there, but that's kind of the plan, I think, is kind of turn it down to where we're to the diameter of where it would go on to the intake side. And then start turning down our intake itself where we could put, what my plan is to maybe run a 372 style clamp on it. I can get an impulse port put into those cases or put into a transfer port on the cylinder. That is the least of my worries, is, you know, getting a pulse off of the crankcase, but that is where we're at on that, is building a custom intake and, you know, running enough carburetor to feed the thing. Not really going for a race saw. Haven't really gotten into that. We'll just say a pretty damn hot pull out and run every now and then firewood saw, just for fun. But another thing, if you're unfamiliar with this chassis, like most other Husky saws, you'll have an anti-vibration spring that'll go from here to the cylinder and bolt on, and we have fins there. So what I'm probably going to do is maybe either make a bracket and run a narrower spring. I've got springs off saws laying here everywhere, or making a bushing out of Delrin and just mounting it straight to the chassis there. You might pick up a little bit of vibration off of that, but you still got your two main AV springs. And again, if you're unfamiliar with these, you have another, let me see if I can get zoomed in on it. And I think I have some of these laying over there, but again, junk cases, the threads and the holes to run the pin through are non-existent and really wallowed out. You have a rubber bushing that sets in right here, and then that bolt has like threads up on the end, and then it's got a pin that drops down into that bushing. It's a weird design, but it works. But what I'm thinking is either Delrin, probably Delrin on that, and just tapping it and running a bolt through into that. Mainly just take up the slop out of it and make it a little stiffer than it originally would have been. But I'm pretty sure, I'll have to look, but I'm pretty sure I have this plate. I'm going to have to come up with a complete clutch assembly. Well, anything I've got here is just junk or aftermarket junk. Probably try to locate a used OEM one. And as of right now, I really can't think of nothing much else, but we'll have to figure out an air filter set up on it as well. Maybe we can get like a low top 372 set up in there to work, and I've got to come up with a top cover. I'd really rather find a used one. On the other saw, it's got a brand new OE top cover on it. If I've got to go that route, I'll go that route, because at the end of the day, it's not going to be a bad looking saw. It's just a bunch of junk I've put together. But there was some interest in it in the comments of the shorts. I thought I'd just throw together a little longer video, but as of right now, squish on it's still super tight. It's loose enough to spin. I am going to cut some out of the band, some back off of the base. I'm not going to go too crazy because the intake timing as of right now is like 78. I don't really want to go any further than like, 81, 82-ish on it. May just move things about 20 thou and see where we're at. Should be somewhere around 80 there, but exhaust poured opening really late, 108, almost 109, and the uppers have a stagger. The lower end of the stagger, which is back toward the intake ports, opening at 132, which is kind of out there in the left field, but that's kind of what you get when you do a bunch of machine work and miss and match parts. But really ain't done a bunch of machine work, mainly just to the piston. And I didn't show it, but you do have to spin the piston around in the lathe and trim the skirts way down on it as well, because it was kind of hitting down in the bottom of the crankcase. But I'm sure there may be other pistons that might work better. 372, you could probably use that piston again. It's going to need some chopped off of it. To use the 266 piston, or if you was doing the 272 swap, I think you would end up either stacking gaskets or making some kind of little spacer. But again, this swap's not as easy as some might think. You got to be experienced with the lathe and be kind of creative, but I have no doubts I can pretty easily make an intake block for it to where we can run a boot and run a 372 setup on it to plan. But anyway, guys, that's where I'm at on it. I don't know when you'll see it again. I do have a starter cover coming. Anyway, I thought I'd put together a little video and give you guys a look at this mess. And as always, thank y'all for watching. Everybody have a good day.